integrating Ghogiel, returning to wisdom. Wisdom cannot be forced. It cannot be collected like information, nor possessed like certainty. It arises naturally whenever the mind becomes quiet enough to receive what reality is already revealing. Every human being possesses the capacity for intuition, the quiet recognition that precedes explanation, the subtle knowing that appears before language. Yet wisdom becomes fragmented whenever we either distrust our inner knowing or become identified with it. Some silence intuition beneath endless doubt. Others mistake impression for unquestionable truth. Though these expressions appear opposite, they arise from the same fragmentation. One fears inner wisdom, the other becomes attached to it. Neither fully embodies Chakma. Integration begins when wisdom is no longer rejected or possessed. Instead, it is received with humility, discernment, and openness. Intuition becomes a guide rather than a master. Reason Reason becomes a companion rather than an obstacle. Insight becomes the beginning of inquiry rather than its conclusion. This is the restoration of Chakma. Not blind certainty, not perpetual doubt, but wisdom continually received through presence. Healing repression. When wisdom has been suppressed, the individual gradually loses confidence in their own inner knowing. Every intuition is questioned before it is explored. Creative inspiration is dismissed. Insight becomes overshadowed by the need for external confirmation. The individual slowly forgets that wisdom often whispers before it speaks loudly. Healing begins by remembering that intuition is not the opposite of reason. It is one of its greatest companions. Wisdom asks to be received before it is analyzed. Practices. Create moments of silence each day without seeking immediate answers. When an intuition arises, write it down before judging it. Spend time in nature, allowing observation to become more important than analysis. Notice the subtle experiences that repeatedly return to your awareness. Rather than immediately dismissing them, become curious. Ask, what is this inviting me to notice? Allow yourself to trust small acts of inner knowing while remaining willing to learn from experience. Every moment of quiet listening strengthens your relationship with wisdom. Every act of sincere curiosity restores confidence in your own perception. Healing possession. When wisdom becomes possessed, intuition gradually becomes identity. Every impression feels absolute. Every inspiration becomes unquestionable. The individual begins believing that certainty itself is wisdom. Yet genuine wisdom has no need to prove itself. It remains teachable. It remains open. It remains willing to discover that yesterday's understanding may deepen tomorrow. Healing begins by remembering that intuition invites exploration. It does not eliminate discernment. Practices. When a powerful insight arises, pause before acting upon it. Ask yourself what experience might confirm or refine this understanding. Welcome thoughtful feedback without immediately becoming defensive. Notice the impulse to equate confidence with truth. Practice saying, "This is my present understanding." Remain willing to revise your conclusions as deeper understanding unfolds. Remember that genuine wisdom becomes more spacious, not more rigid. Every act of humility refines intuition. Every willingness to learn allows wisdom to mature. Integration. As both extremes gradually soften, wisdom begins returning to its natural place. Inner knowing becomes trusted without becoming unquestioned. Reason and intuition begin working together. Insight becomes quieter, clearer, less dramatic. There is less urgency to convince, less need to explain every experience. Wisdom gradually becomes less concerned with appearing profound and more concerned with remaining truthful. The individual becomes increasingly comfortable waiting for understanding to unfold naturally. Patience replaces impulsiveness. Humility replaces certainty. The mind no longer competes with intuition. Neither does intuition dismiss the mind. Together, they become partners in the continual discovery of reality. This is the return of Chakma, wisdom received with humility, insight refined through experience, truth continually revealing itself through presence. Recognition. As Ghogiel begins to integrate, subtle changes naturally appear. You become more willing to trust your inner knowing without immediately needing external validation. You also become more willing to question your first impressions with patience and humility. Your intuition becomes quieter yet more reliable. You become less reactive to dramatic ideas and more attentive to subtle insights. Curiosity gradually replaces certainty. Listening becomes more natural than explaining. You become increasingly comfortable allowing understanding to unfold over time. Rather than seeking to possess wisdom, you begin participating in it. These are signs that Chakma is being embodied. Living expression. As Chakma becomes integrated, Wisdom quietly begins shaping every aspect of life. Decisions become less impulsive and more deeply aligned. Creativity flows more naturally because it is no longer constrained by fear or inflated by ego. Leadership becomes guided by insight rather than authority. Teaching becomes an invitation rather than a proclamation. You become increasingly comfortable sitting with mystery without needing immediate resolution. Others experience your presence as calm because your confidence no longer depends upon certainty. It rests within openness. Wisdom becomes less about having answers and more about remaining available to truth. This is the living expression of Chakma, a mind that listens, a heart that remains teachable, a life continually guided by humble insight. Reflection. Take a quiet moment to reflect upon your relationship with wisdom. Ask yourself, which expression of Ghogiel has shaped my life more deeply? Repression or possession? Which practices speak most directly to where I am today? Where have I ignored my deepest knowing through fear or self doubt? Where have I mistaken certainty for wisdom? How can I cultivate greater trust in my intuition while remaining open to correction? What would change if I allowed wisdom to unfold rather than forcing immediate conclusions? How can I become a better listener to reality today? Wisdom does not belong to those who know the most. It belongs to those who remain willing to receive. Every moment of humble listening becomes an invitation for deeper insight. Every insight lived with integrity becomes another expression of awakened consciousness.